So, John, this seems to be so critically important to me, and I a really rich ground as I think of myself as somebody out in the Pacific watching the world. We've got to be realistic about Russia. NATO must be realistic, or let me narrow that down. Europe must be realistic and not drop the ball, not go to sleep, prepare for the unlikely or the unpredictable. And one of the factors they've surely got to take into account, because I agree with you that there are isolationist trajectories emerging in some of America's political subsections, if you like. But I don't think America, there's 2 points about America, I don't think they can ignore the Pacific. Yeah. In the end, I think that would be their priority. I think Europe ought to be aware of that, that would be my view, and aware of the fact that America can't carry everybody, and it won't and it can't, put it that way. So it's critically important, it seems to me, that Europe not go back to thinking there's a peace dividend or that we can just return to normal.
Or that they can rely on America while continuously attacking it.
Well, yeah.
You see, but ask yourself the question, I mean, I'm sure it might have been one you asked already. Where would Europe be in the Ukraine crisis if it hadn't been for the Americans, if it hadn't been for the American nuclear umbrella, if it hadn't been for American logistics, if it had all turned on the French and the Germans as the key powers, the Baltic states would have been stalwart. They would have done what they have done, or even more if they'd had to do it. The Finns would have been strong. The Poles would have been very strong because they've all got an historical experience of Soviet tyranny. But suppose the Americans hadn't been here, or they hadn't actually engaged the way they had. What would have happened in Ukraine? It would have been sold out, would it not? It would have been absorbed. They would have fought. They fought at the end of the Second World War, I think for about 10 years, from the early 40s to the early 50s against the Soviets. There would have been guerrilla war. They would have gone on because they are a nation, and they would have become even more of a nation as a result of being attacked in this way. But they would have lost by now if it hadn't been, I think, for the Americans. If it had been down to what would have happened earlier on in the Balkans if the Americans hadn't intervened? What would have happened if it had all been down to the EU? The EU is non-existent as a military entity, as a military power. It hasn't got any military power, and it won't have. It takes too long to get it up. You're talking not just about armies, difficult in themselves to establish at a transnational level. Macron's army is a phantom. I don't think will come to anything. But even if it does, you're talking about logistics, you're talking about intelligence, you're talking about high tech, which takes years and years and years to get up, decades probably. And I doubt, to be frank, that there is the will to do that in much of continental Europe. The Germans aren't going to do it. They say they are. There was a great deal of talk about an historic change in German foreign policy, but they backed off from most of that.
Didn't last long.
It lasted about a fortnight. The second end of history lasted about a fortnight.
Our worst fears, frankly, for anybody watching closely.
Yeah.
If Germany had really stepped up, if it looked like they meant
and stayed stepped up.
Yeah. They would have been the third largest spender on defence in the world after America and China with the size of their economy.
They won't do it because of their energy dependency on
well, they're funding the war.
Yes.
Well, they're sending arms at one level. Underneath
some arms. Yes.
Some
arms. Another.
But, the money they're sending to Putin far outweighs such weaponry as they're supplying.
You see, that's in a respect in which he is rational and calculating. He knows he's got friends like Schroeder. He knows they're deeply dependent on, so dependent on Russian energy inputs that if they were cut off altogether, the economy would be too severely damaged. He knows, therefore, that they've got to keep part of the financial sanctions. They've got to have clauses and loopholes in them to allow the banks that deal with those transactions. They've got to be exempted from them. So he knows that the economic sanctions and the financial sanctions can never really be complete, and he's prepared to ride out whatever impact they have on the Russian people themselves because he thinks that's sustainable. And there again, he's probably correct, because the deep fatalism of the Russian people, the deep unhappiness, those who can't stand it will try and escape to Finland or Turkey or Armenia, or where, by the way, they were the places they went to in Finland and in 100 years ago, when it's history repeating itself again. So the IT people, the young people, dissident artists and others, they'll leave, but the rest will stay there and put up with what they have to put up with. So
and be influenced by what I'd have to describe as a really, really troubling theology,
yes,
of the Orthodox leaders.
Yes.